Now we're staying with the performance management theme for one more round. When there is a sound performance management process in place that assesses people's actual performance, some organizations use a performance improvement plan. And that actually ties into what we just mentioned as well, that we sometimes have this association with underperformance. So here is then the performance improvement plan. And this is then being used as a tool to boost performance, build accountability, and also hopefully reduce turnover. While this sounds great in theory, in reality, performance improvement plans are often perceived as the beginning of the end of an employee's journey with the organization, and they are used by employers to fire underperforming employees. If implemented correctly, though, a performance improvement plan can help employees understand their skills, identify training gaps, and set clear expectations for the job role. As such, it can be an excellent tool to align management and employees and therefore improve both job satisfaction and performance. A successful performance improvement plan, however, does require, and there he or she is again, a supportive manager willing to follow through and aid the employee under performance review where necessary. An interesting case for a debate, thus, this performance improvement plan. So here goes for our statement. Performance improvement plans are more punitive than constructive and should be replaced with alternative approaches. All right, I'm going to start with you for this one, Vicky. Do you vote yes or do you vote no?
100% yes.
Oh, interesting. So, Christine, what do you vote?
Well, I can only say it depends.
Okay, interesting.
Not very.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, we'll hear more about that in a second. But Vicky, please tell us why you say 100% yes.
It's hard not to be cynical, but in my experience, whenever I've had a manager approach me and said, "Hey, Vic, we need to do a PIP. I need your assistance to get a PIP," red flags for me everywhere. I find PIPs, they're just not used well, and nobody thinks a PIP is a good thing. I'd love the podcast community to prove me wrong. I've never seen it used to improve performance. I've always seen it, as you alluded to, Neelie, a means to an end. It's the start of the termination journey. In Australia in particular, we rely a lot on PIPs, or the lack of a PIP, if we have an unfair dismissal claim brought against an employer in the Fair Work Commission. So we will rely on a PIP or any other performance evidence to show whether there was reasonable management action, an opportunity for an employee to improve their performance, etc., etc. Unfortunately, PIPs that have been used in other organisations I've been in have been a stock standard tick and flick template. It's been as a set and forget process. The manager doesn't want to be actively involved and engaged in a PIP. They see it as a HR function. Yeah. So HR, can you get a PIP? HR, where's the PIP template? This is HR wants a PIP to be done before I terminate this employee. So it's almost seen as HR standing in the way of a termination. Ergo the cynicism with a PIP. It's not a HR process, a performance improvement plan. It's a people management process that, again, the leader needs to be very much involved in. HR is providing the tool, the expertise, the support in how to address it. But the manager is the one, again, that needs to be responsible to set the goals, the guidelines, the expectations, the timeframes, engage in regular feedback with the employee, document what's happening. And again, quite often a PIP will be introduced. I don't think I've had an experience where I've been asked for a PIP and the manager has said, "I've already done this, this and this," to try to actually get feedback to the employee, get them to improve their performance. It's just been I'm going straight to a PIP. So I think with those PIPs as well, coming from the service industry, so particularly in hospitality and security industries, there's a lack of, because it's such a transient industry, there's a lot of casual staff. So quite often staff let go quite easily. However, with service standards, there can quite often be a lack of this is the expected service standard. It'll just be, we've got complaints about you. There's customer complaints, or you're not fast enough. There's never any real detail around, the expected standard is that you greet each customer with a smile, you thank them, you call them by their first name. I think McDonald's has this down pat in terms of their standard operating procedures. Hello, how are you? Would you like to upsize? Do you want French fries? Yeah, it's a very expected standard of service you get at McDonald's, and it makes it very clear for the employee as well to know what's expected of me. So I think everyone should take a leaf out of the McDonald's handbook. The additional thing is the shift of perception that needs to occur if we do continue using PIPs. Again, PIPs, it's the end of the road once I see it. So unless there's a shift in perception, I don't think PIPs will work. I think they're punitive.
Interesting. Really interesting. Thank you so much. All right, Christine, let's go to you.
Well, to be honest, before I prepared for our little round here, I didn't hear the expression PIP before. And when I hear you talking, Vicky, I totally agree. Then it's really cynical to quote a PIP as something positive. I started reading into it, and I said it depends, because it has to do with the company's culture. When you really introduce such a performance improvement plan in a positive way in a company, where you're allowed to make mistakes, where is it okay to get critical feedback in order to grow, then it could be something good. But if it's used and everybody knows that it's used to start to be able to fire someone, then it's totally the opposite side. But I have the strong feeling that everybody has a talent, or everybody has talent, and everybody is mostly willing to want to perform. And if he or she doesn't perform, it's the wrong job or the wrong surrounding. Only little percent of the people are really lazy or don't want to do whatever they're supposed to do. So a performance improvement plan could be something which could really help them improve. But if the attitude in the company is wrong, or is like it's a preparation to fire and everybody knows it, then it has no use. Then you only work for the file, And that's a pity, because the initiative of having a performance plan is something good, because we all want to improve. You can improve by getting well done, but you improve more if somebody tells you, well, this was good, but you should get better in so-and-so and try this and this to become better.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, there are so many things. I really am thinking now where I want to, which direction I want to go. Because yes, of course, that it does make a lot of sense, and I totally agree that basically, if the general understanding of a PIP being introduced to somebody is that everybody knows, oh dear, we know what this means, right? Both the people working in the company and the manager and HR, everybody knows it. If that is how people perceive it, then I think. Then I think it totally misses its purpose. We can have all these beautiful ideas behind it and the theory behind it, but then of course in practice, this is totally not working. At the same time, I also see what you're saying, Christine, and I do think that, let's say, most people, I think there's definitely some exceptions there, as there always are, but most people, they probably do want to be enjoying their jobs, and they want to feel productive, and it would be great if in a company they then have the opportunity to work on that together with the managers or HR. So I guess something that I'm then curious about, if we go back to the statement as well, is what could be, in both of your opinions, what could be a good alternative approach to try and and help people who may be struggling temporarily or maybe not so temporarily with their performance in the broadest sense of the term. What could be a good alternative approach? What have you perhaps seen in organizations that you've worked for or with that has worked? Vicky, I'm going to start with you again.
I don't have a good news story for you, unfortunately.
Oh,
I've not seen an alternative. Once a PIP is introduced, and again, the language, it's a performance improvement process. So the title itself should indicate you are trying to improve the performance, not trying to find a business case to terminate someone. So I think what we need to take a step back on is the re-education of managers and the cultural piece. So what Christine was speaking about before as to how the organisation looks at performance. And I think just like we have a HR strategy or business strategy or vision and values of a business, I think there needs to be perhaps a re-education of performance management processes and what performance improvement plans are. And maybe just because the name is tainted, maybe we need to call it something else and call it an employee retention program or something. Yeah, I think the name is tainted and needs to go.
Yeah, and also I'm kind of thinking that if the performance management process is decent, if it's a good process in itself in the organization, then it should inherently be there to improve people's performance, right? That should be that there shouldn't be a tool necessary to do that separately. It should be part of the process ideally. But that basically comes back to also our previous debate about the whole performance improvement process in general, and that there's still so much room for improvement there. So yes, thank you, Vicky. Christine, what are your thoughts on this? Perhaps an alternative approach, if you have ever come across an alternative approach that you believe worked quite well.
Well, first of all, I like Vicky's idea of reframing, renaming this whole process to giving a fresh up, so to say. But I would start more, now I hear the drilling, more early. Because in the startup scene, there's always a saying, hire slow, fire quick, which means hire slow, which means really look at the person you want to hire. Talk about the expectation, because if the person knows what he or she is expected, you can really, they're all adults, you can really ask yourself whether I want to do this or not, and then onboard them well. Also, and I talk about, for example, leaders positions, but also in the practical service position, I was responsible for flight attendants at Lufthansa as well. So we gave them a very good onboarding, and not only like 2 weeks, and I mean, you know what you have to do, but really try to teach them what they will have to need for the job, and then have a probation time. And use the probation time really thoroughly, which means during the first 6 months, at least in Germany, you have the probation time, have frequent feedbacks and tell them what you like and what you dislike and what you expect. And if he or she doesn't perform, then in the early times, tell them, maybe be hard on facts but soft on people, and tell them, with the two of us, it doesn't work. I'm so sorry. You're a good person, but it doesn't work. I discovered people 25 years in the company and all was saying, oh, this person doesn't perform, but he or she didn't perform for 25 years. So then I was asking, what did you do the 24 years before? And that's a leader's job. A leader's job is to take care of people, give feedback, not only well done, but also, honey, we have to talk. And then do it in a nice way, but very, very clear. And I'm a fan of OKRs. But you can't do this in every job, to count the smiles would be a little more difficult. But for leaders to bring their KPIs, that's good. And to do this every 2 weeks, not only once a year. We did it in a conference. We did the conference, the performance conference. And I've never met so many heroes during 2 hours, like in these performance conferences, because everybody wanted to get the best grade for his buddies, because telling him or her to say, well, I didn't get the full grade for you, got you into trouble in the team. So it's, yeah.
I had to laugh because I was thinking of what you were saying, like of a KPI being counting smiles. Quite funny. Anyhow, but what I do really like about what you're saying here, Christine, is that I like it because in my mind, this is more of almost preventative performance management. I'm not sure if it's the right word, but yeah, I think you had some really interesting points there, and it makes total sense, right? Like with the onboarding, we know that it's very important, but also the probation period, it is indeed there for that. And I think if you set the right tone right from the start in terms of performance management, because that's what we're talking about, then hopefully that will then last throughout the whole employee journey. And also, I thought you had a good point. If somebody is in a company for 25 years and hasn't been performing for 24 years, then obviously something went wrong there, right? In terms of that nobody has ever said anything about it. Vicky, would you like to say something as well?
No, I think it was really well put. I did, it's just gone out of my mind now, but you made the tagline you had, Christine, about how you manage, what was it that you manage?
I think it was, wasn't it hard on facts, soft on people? Is that it?
Love it. I think I've always been a fan of the firm but fair approach as well. I think that's and I think sometimes managers forget that. And again, going back a step, when I mentioned that a lot of middle managers go into their roles, up the pipe of their experience within their department. I think that they leave a lot of their peers behind and now become their manager, and they find it hard to go into that firm but fair approach because I'm no longer your friend. So I either need to take a really hard approach and not lead with my heart with how I deliver information, or they just completely miss the difficult conversations and everything else around that to manage the underperformance. So that resonated with me quite well.
Awesome. All right. We're going to continue to the third debate.